All right.
Okay, I think we're about on here. All right. Yay. Okay, I'm just doing a little bit of organizing here as we get started. So, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Soul Elevation, guiding your ascension to new heights. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin, and I'm so excited to be here in this live stream with Valeria Maritza. So a lot of you know that I tend to go live Mondays and Fridays or at a couple of times a week anyway. And I was just telling Valeria before we started that I was where we were going to meet on Monday anyway. And I was like, why don't we just do our live together? So I was lucky to be on her podcast, Healing Through You. And so she's interviewed me, and now it's my joy and honor to be able to learn more about her and her amazing spiritual gifts. So let me just do a little bio read here, and then we'll start diving into Valeria's story. So she is a spiritual mentor and activator with a connection to the angelic realm. She works using an array of modalities to suit her clients best, such as her intuitive psychic gifts, the Akashic Records, Reiki, and light language. Valeria is the host of the Healing Through You podcast and founder of Activated, a 6-month journey of transformation. She's a channeled artist, bringing the divine through her freehand mandala paintings. She works with the angels, ascended masters, her guides, and the energy of love. And she also channels the beings of light and the Council of Nine, among other higher frequency energies. So, welcome, Valeria. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm
Well,
very
thanks for
excited to be
coming.
here.
Yes, thanks for coming on Soul Elevation. Thank you for being patient with me. I was a little bit late and had some trouble with my microphone, and so I'm like, having my difficulties in trying to figure out the best way for us to create a quality episode. So if my sound does sound different, thank you for bearing with me. I'm going to have to figure out why my microphone wouldn't work, but hopefully it will do. Let's start by talking about your journey and what led you to doing spiritual work. I love to know if people have kind of always been drawn to spirit, or if they went through an awakening process and kind of came more out of the blue. What was it like for you?
Well, I definitely had an awakening. And it was in the year 2000. And I didn't know it was an awakening because this was not available in the year 2000. So I'll back up a little bit. Growing up, I always had these moments that are kind of like frozen in time that it feels like a memory or a dream, but it's like so vivid and it's like nothing gets lost from it. Like there's no parts of the memory that go away. And one of them was in reference to my cat who passed away like a few weeks before we immigrated to the States. And I saw her body and I knew instantly she had passed, like something had happened.
You saw it in
And
your mind's eye type of thing?
no, I saw her like in the backyard. We had like a huge
Oh,
backyard, and like
okay.
we were looking for her. She wasn't coming, so I
Mhm.
went and I saw her, and instantly I knew that's her and she's no longer with us. And I didn't feel any grief. I just felt like, oh, okay, like that happened. And I don't know. I don't know what I felt. I didn't have the vocabulary that I have now to put it together. But I just felt like I need to tell mom. And I went to tell her. And I remember feeling like, oh, wait a second. Like, I need to look a certain way. I need to look like I'm upset or crying because my cat, I just found the dead cat. And so I made myself like cry and told her. And as I'm doing this, I feel like I don't feel this. Like I feel perfectly fine that the cat's gone. Not that I didn't love the cat. It's
Yeah.
just that I just had this knowing that she was okay. And I remember this, and it's like ingrained in my mind, like, wow, like that happened, and why did I do that? Why did I feel like I needed to be someone else or play the part of someone who was grieving when I saw this? And so that was like weird. Then I had something similar with my grandma who passed, and things like that. I saw once, I actually saw a spirit, like I saw the whole figure, and it was like a shorter, kind of stout figure. And we were already in the States, and I thought, oh, I know that's a spirit. I know someone crossed. I don't know who it is. Why are they showing themselves up to me? And I started thinking, and this is a very interesting part because when we start thinking with our mind instead of feeling, we immediately disconnect from whatever it is that we're receiving. Started thinking, well, who looks like this? Right? And I couldn't think of anyone. So I was like, maybe my grandpa. He was kind of like shorter and kind of stout. And then I was like, okay, it had to have been him. And I'm waiting for the news to arrive, and they didn't arrive. And then finally, my father spoke to his dad, and he was fine. And I was like, oh, he wasn't him. Okay. And then 2 more weeks went by, and my mother received this letter from a friend letting her know that one of her friends had passed. And it was her. And as soon as she told me, I was like, oh yeah, that was the body, like that's the figure I saw. So I had this interest in the, you know, mediumship or spirits, and I like crossing over like that. I had this interest since I was little, but it was just a thing, it wasn't anything that I thought was special or anything like that. And then in the year 1999, my mom crossed over, and then I had a huge experience, and I don't remember if it was right after or if it was the year 2000, um, where I entered this church, and she had, I was like really depressed that she had crossed. And I sat down and I heard her speak to me. And we had this telepathic conversation. This is what I call my awakening.
Mhm.
Uh, because it was so clear as you're speaking to me. And we had like this whole conversation, and like tears are coming down my face, and I'm feeling like, wow. And I had my eyes closed, and I didn't want to open the eyes because I thought if I open my eyes, it's going to go away. So I just remained there. And then finally, like the conversation stopped, and she had given me messages from my siblings who were really not into this type of belief, kind of like more against it because we were raised Catholic. And so that's supposed to be like not of a good place when you hear or communicate with someone who's crossed over. So I came home and I told them the message that mom had given, and they were kind of mad because, like, why are you talking to me about this? And I was like, well, mom gave me the message. I'm giving it to you. Like, whatever, like, you deal with it. And from that point on, I started really being more interested in like anything metaphysical, right? So I started like trying yoga or Tai Chi or meditating. And every time I would do it, I would feel like, oh, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Because I didn't know what I was supposed to, but I felt like there was something else. And then I would be like, maybe this is what I need to do. And then I would have immediately like another thought, like, no, like you don't want to do that because, and whatever reason came to me. But I kept searching, and I started like looking into books, like The Secret, when that came out. And what's the guy's name who just passed? I forgot his name. Anyway, all kind of like teachers and people who were talking about this stuff. And I went to a lot of psychics and mediums because I wanted more connection with my mom. I wanted that to happen again. I didn't look for it. It happened. And then I was like, well, how do I make that happen again? And nobody that I saw told me anything like, oh, you have a gift. Like that didn't happen for me. I know it has happened for other people. But, I would communicate and I would get messages, and I was so intrigued and I just loved it. Um, and I had a lot of events in my life since then until 2020, so 20 years, where I was experiencing things and I was very into things, but I didn't pay it any attention as if it was something that I could do or something that, because like, well, if I can't do it, then why would I think that that's something I want to do, right? I was just really interested. But I had a lot of messages and coincidences and synchronicities and a lot of things happening for me where I would experience it and know it, because my gift is of a knowing,
Mhm.
and then not pay attention to it or not listen to it, and then things would not go well for me. And this was just like my life, right? It's just how I'm going through. And I remember that it was about 2017, 2018. I was a teacher. I was teaching art from K through 8th, and I was feeling really like unfulfilled. And I love art and I love the kids. And I was a really good teacher. And I was like, there's something missing. I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I had the husband and the house and my child and the career, all the things that you're supposed to have. And I started feeling more and more empty, like something else is missing, something is missing. And I started wanting to leave and I didn't know what to do. So I'm sure a lot of people might be feeling this way, like, what do I do? I know this isn't it, but what do I do? So I was like, maybe I'll start looking for like a job to do from home, or like, what could I do with the skills that I have? And I was looking and pondering, then COVID showed up, and then we all found ourselves working from home. And I was like, wow, like, did I manifest that, right? Because I wanted to work from home. I was like thinking, right? I was like trying to make something out of it. But I was like, wow, this is what it's like to work from home. And I liked it. Um, but I didn't like teaching art through this screen because, especially the older kids, like it was a screen of like black screens. Nobody wanted to turn it
Yeah.
on. It was a very awkward time. And I would show up with all my energy and just teach to the black screens. I was like, well, if they're here or if they're not, I'm just going to make believe that they're here and they're listening to me. And I'm just going to do the same thing I do in the classroom because I don't know what else to do, right? Where I had a lot of colleagues who would get stuck in that and be like, turn the thing on. And I'm not going to, and like they would just like completely get thrown off what they were supposed to be teaching because they were upset or bothered that they couldn't see anyone, right? Because there was no connection. And I was like, I'm just gonna believe and make believe that they're here, and I'm just gonna teach them. And I will even ask questions like, "Does that make sense?" Or like, "Do you have any questions?" And he'd be like, silent, right? And and then I remember thinking, oh, this is preparing me for my next level of what I'm doing. And I just knew this. I knew that this job in this moment, teaching through Zoom, teaching to like the black screens was preparing me for something that was coming. I didn't know what that was, but I had that knowing that dropped in. And I was like, wow, well, how exciting is it that I'm getting paid to prepare for my next level of whatever it is that I'm doing while I'm doing my job? And, and I just had that type of understanding or belief. And I did the thing. And then while I started doing the thing, I also started working with my mentor, and she was a breathwork mentor, and she thought, because she was also going through her own stuff, that that's what she was teaching. But through that breathwork and whatever program she had, I started connecting and remembering who I was. I started feeling like, oh, you mean those things that I did, those knowing, those were a thing? Like that's a thing? That's something? That's not just, random stuff? I started putting it all together, and I still had a lot of disbelief that I had anything special or any. I mean, I still don't believe it as being special because I believe that we all have this, but I didn't think that it was anything that I could do
You
anything
had
with.
access to.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm in this group. I was in a group with like several other women who were doing this program, and we would share a little bit. And I remember saying something like, yeah, I don't know if I can, something like that. And then one of the other students chimed in and she's like, Valeria, we all know what you can do. Just go ahead and do it. And it
Ooh.
wasn't my mentor, it was another person who was watching me just have that self-doubt and self-doubt and self-doubt. And it was like, whoa, okay, right? Like what? So then what do I do? So then my mentor said, well, why don't you put out on one of these spiritual groups a post that, you'll do some free sessions in exchange for a testimonial so that you see. And I was like, okay. So I did it. right? So I took action and I did that, and my calendar filled up, and I was still working full time. I was still have taking care of my child. I had all the things. I was exhausted. I had no time for, I thought, for anything else. And yet I was scheduling these things like 9 p.m. at night because my day was filled. And I found that I had all this new energy because I was excited about what was about to happen.
Wow.
So I started doing these sessions, and I remember this was like around Thanksgiving through Christmas. That was the month that, that's when this happened for me. And almost every night I had a session. I also had something on Saturdays, and people had this really great feedback like, wow, like that happened, or I felt this, or whatever, right? And then that's when I started believing. And then I was like, oh, so this is a thing. Oh, so I can do something. But it took strangers. It took strangers to give me their time and their trust for me to practice on them and then give me the feedback that, yeah, they felt something different, they saw something different, that whatever it was, for me to trust in me. Because prior to that, I had done certain things with some people that I knew, and I would do it. I'll give you an example so it's not so just like out there. Like, I remember I was like, it was Saturday evening, and a friend of mine calls me from a different state, and they're like, oh, I have this headache. Can you do something about it? And I was like, sure. And I just put my hand on my head. It was like right here. I'm in the car, like I was parked. Um, and I don't know why I put it there. And then I started feeling this headache, and I said, "Is it on the right side?" And he said, "Yes." I started feeling this headache within me, and then I started instinctively just sending it out of my body, like from my head. I was like seeing it go out, like out of the bottom of my feet, and I'm doing this for a few seconds. It wasn't minutes, and then I started feeling it feel better. And then he goes on the other side of the phone, "Oh, great, thank you." Like and I was like, what? Like that actually happened? And I don't know why he called to ask. I don't know why I said yes. I don't know why I
Mhm.
put my hand there. It was all like things happening, like, sure, like I'm open to this, and then it happening. And and then he hung up, and then I said to myself, he just said that because he's a friend of mine. He's just playing. Right? So like it's like stuff like that that I it was just so out there and so incredible. And it also for me, it felt like I was doing nothing. Like it didn't feel like I was actually doing anything. So how
Well,
could it work? Right?
right. So when you were, there are a couple things I want to clarify or
Yeah.
get more info about with what you shared, because one is the type of work that you were doing with these people, because I know you have a lot of skills. So you've got the healing skills that you shared. You mentioned about just the knowing that you have, and so like more of kind of psychic things. You've
Hmm.
mentioned about the spirit connection, so there's mediumship. So I'd love to know kind of where that began and where what it evolved into. And then I love what you talk about with teaching to the black screens and just kind of trusting, and how that was helping you to hone your skills. How did you then, in retrospect, later go back and be like, okay, this is how that was, like how that applies to what you were doing in the future?
Yeah. So a lot of questions there. Where do I start?
Yeah, start with the like, just tell us more about the skills that were emerging as you were doing those sessions.
Okay. So I thought that my skill was to be able to help people remove physical pain from their body, which is a big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that's my skill. I had no thought that I could be psychic or spirit or all of those things, even though that had happened. That was not where I was putting my attention. I was putting my attention on this because of experiences like this phone call that I had, right? And so I thought that's what I could do. And I remember telling my mentor about it. And she said, Valeria, she goes, if you believe, and this is for anyone who's out there thinking that they can do something. She goes, if you believe, if you have this feeling that you can help people remove pain, physical pain from their bodies, then it's true for you. Because she goes, I don't have that feeling. I have I've never thought, oh, I can do that for someone. She's like, I have different things that are coming for me. That's coming up for you, so that's what you can do. So she was reinforcing that one thing that I thought I could do. So that's where I was going into. And that's what I asked people to help me with when I said I want to practice, right? But while I was practicing, I had an experience where it was a Saturday morning, and this lady had some back pain, and I'm working on it. And then right about when I'm about to, do my thing, this helicopter decides to come and hover over my house, and it felt like it was right on top of my house. And I'm like, okay, let me just wait for it to go, right? And it's not going. And then I'm like, okay, hold on a second. And now I'm getting distracted. Like, what's going on? Why is there a helicopter outside? Like, why isn't it leaving? Then I'm like, it's messing me up. I can't concentrate. I had all these things coming in. And through all of those thoughts, I had one thought, and the thought was, I wonder if this is a message. And so then I asked her, I said, hey, would you be open to something different if it's coming through? And she said, sure. And I said, do you have anyone who's crossed over who was like in the military? And I said military because it just felt like a military helicopter. I don't know. I didn't even look outside, right? And she says, yes, my father. And as soon as she said that, the helicopter left.
Oh my gosh, I have so many chills.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's how I started opening up to different things, because here I am, face to face with this person. Like, I'm working on relieving physical pain, which is what I think I can do. And then I get this message, right? And then I start getting like things to tell her, right? Like a message for her. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then when we finish that, I'm like, so I'm a medium, like I can do that too, right? Right? So it was kind of like that. And a lot of the things that I'm able to do have been that way. That is like something happens that I'm not expecting. I'm just kind of like playing with it. And then at some point, I get this knowing or this feeling like, I don't know, let it go or go with it. And I allow it to go through. And then a new gift is like emerge or shown to me. And then I can lean more into that. So that's kind of like how I've opened up. And I opened up very quickly with a lot of different things because of the way that I have been very trusting.
Mhm.
You mentioned like I work with the angels, and I've always been an angels girls because I just love the angels. Um and I've always put this kind of like intention that I'm only communicating with frequencies of love and light. I'm only communicating or allowing in frequencies of like the highest good. So I do this before a session. So when something comes in, I'm I'm trusting that
Yeah,
it's
you're more
something.
relaxed. You don't feel like you've got to have your guard up. And yeah, I'm sure that allows a lot more to come through.
Right. And then also the trusting, like, okay, well, let me say this thing that I'm thinking, right? Like, why would I say military, right?
Right.
Like that's a big word.
Yeah.
So so that's kind of like how my gifts have opened up. And then I would play with them, and I would try them. And then I was already working with some clients. So I would say, hey, I'm trying this new thing. Do you want to try it out? And they would say yes. And then I would get feedback again. So like that's kind of like how I've evolved on that. And what was the other question you had?
The Zoom part.
Oh, so yeah, so when I first started, well, let me just back up a little for anyone who's like thinking of doing their own thing with their own gifts that are coming up. So my calendar was like full. I did like 30 different, free sessions, and everybody was like raving about it, right? Like that's how it felt. And then my mentor said, you have to, now you can start a business if you want. You can start charging. And then I had to go through a whole thing with that. I was like, okay. So then I put out, same place, like this is what I'm charging for sessions. And then it was like crickets, right? It's like nobody
Oh,
wanted, nobody came. And it was months, like at least 3 months, right? And I'm
wow.
like, what's happening, right? Like Like, didn't they say that it was good? But like, what's going on? Um, so my mentor said, go on and do lives. So when you do a live, like on Facebook Live, or if, or like a short, you're talking to yourself, right? You're seeing
Oh, yeah.
yourself, and you're
Uh-huh.
talking to an audience that you don't know if they're there or not. And even if I did a Facebook Live, when I first started, I would like go on and it would show like zero viewers, right? Like no one's watching you, right? And then so you're watching this, and then you're doing whatever message you're saying, you're teaching whatever, and you're seeing no one's watching this. And then that's when I was like, that's what I was preparing for. I was preparing for this. I was preparing
Oh.
for this part, which is very difficult to go out and start saying thing and then like, oh, there's nobody watching me, right? Like, what am I doing? Um, like, what is it for? But then you're trusting that this is the path. You're trusting that the message is getting through somehow, somewhere, even if it's within my own space because I'm speaking it out, right? I'm getting it out of me. And so my own energy field, and by the way, I did not know this. I did not have this information when I started in
Yeah.
2020. Okay, I just want to be clear. Like I have the vocabulary and the knowing now, but back then I was just trusting.
Yes. I love that. And things live on the internet like forever once they're out there. And I wonder, because of course I'm putting content out there too. And there are some things that are lesser viewed, and there are some things that get traction later. Like
Mm-hmm.
it might not get traction right away, but then it's like I had an interview that I just noticed the other day. I'm like, God, this interview did nothing when I first put it out. Now it's got like thousands, and people keep. And I had even kind of forgotten about it. It wasn't like a anyway. It's a dark horse, right? Where I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
well, who knew that one was gonna take off? And
Yeah.
it wasn't anything that I did, because I kind of put it out. It didn't do anything, and I just keep going because I am, just have a lot of content, but I feel that because more and more people are awakening, and I think that will keep happening, and especially in the next 2 years and 5 years, and but I think there will be more waves and waves. This has been prophesized. It's been predicted though also. So it's been prophesized, like we're talking, lineages and epochs of time where they knew that this time was going to be a shift in consciousness, but also people who are modern people who are tapping in, who are more like in the details, where you've talked a lot about 2020 and as we've been talking, and there were a lot of people who, so for me personally, like I started my awakening journey kind of started in 2016, 2017, that sort of time. 2019 I started hearing people talking a lot about 2020,
Mm.
and it was like, what's going to happen in 2020? And some people thought it was going to be great. It was going to be this amazing thing, but it was going to be different. Like people knew going into 2020, it was going to be a big year. And so as we were in it, it felt so weird. And we're like, what is happening? And for some people, it's great. For some people, it's terrible. Um, but that was like one shift. And then there have been other people, then, the information kind of keeps coming out where it's like, okay, then 2025, like, so we had 2020, then 2025 is going to be a big one. 2026 is going to be a big one, 2027. So like kind of more at that granular level, people are seeing more and more. So I bring that up because content lives forever on
Yeah.
the internet. And so as more and more people are like, wait a minute, my life just turned upside, like my whole understanding of how reality is just turned upside down. I feel that there will just be more like waves and waves of people who need support. And there
Yes.
will be content that's been living on the internet for years, but it applies to them and they find it when they need it. So that was kind of what came up when you were talking about that. But there's also the part I wondered if you were going to take it when you were talking about the Zoom and that you were just trusting and you weren't getting feedback, but you were just kind of navigating it in the moment as you taught, if that would apply to how you receive messages and give messages, because not getting the physical feedback. Do you know
Mm.
what I mean? Did that play into it at all when when you're communicating more with the subtle energies? I don't know.
Yeah, I never pondered upon that. So it really does feel like it resonates. Like that's part of it that I hadn't even like put together. So I mean, we're always learning more and growing more into our own awareness. And so yeah, it does feel like that had to have been part of it. Like there's nothing here. I got no feedback, but I'm still feeling into the space and delivering to whomever's there or not.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. And I feel a lot like when I do have sessions with people, like I receive a message and sometimes the person is like, nope, that doesn't resonate. I have no idea or whatever. And I'm receiving like, nope, that's what it is. That's what it is. And I'm like, okay, like, what do I do with this? Right? And so a lot of people who get to that place might be thrown off, like, oh no, I'm disconnected. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not good enough. What could I do? Right. And then as soon as you start thinking, you do disconnect and then nothing comes through. But for me, it's more of like, okay, I'm trusting that what I'm receiving is, and that this person is not making the connection yet. Or is maybe I'm seeing it like a little bit further down the line than right now, but just trusting it. And then that allows me to keep going with the session
Mm,
and continue to move. And then also reassuring the person that, okay, it's fine, maybe it'll show up later on. And I have had people message me or email me like later and sometimes even months later telling me, oh, that thing that happened in our session, like that happened. But it hadn't happened until like way later.
mhm.
And then after that, also they had to like put it together and remember, and then want to message me, right? Like all those things have to
Yes,
go through
right.
um, to let me
I
know.
love that. Yes. And I love that you're bringing up to you. This is the second time you've brought up the mental, like how our mind gets in the way. And I think that's so important for people to really hear and to really understand because we live in such an intellectual society. Even if you don't feel like you're intellectual per se, like maybe you wouldn't call yourself intellectual, but our minds are so prized and our thoughts are so prized and we're so connected with ourselves as thinkers. I
Mm-hmm.
think, therefore I am. That's what makes me a person. Is kind of like there's a whole philosophy that starts with that. I think, therefore I am. But when you want to develop these skills or tune in more to your own intuition, the importance of releasing that, and it takes diligence and it takes practice and it takes trust and all these things that you're talking about, but it's so important. So I love that you keep bringing that up of like we can stop the flow, like we can just take ourselves, you can be in the flow and then start thinking about it and get right out of it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like magic.
And I'll tell you the story of my very first person who willingly said, "Okay, I'll come here to see what you can do in order, when I started practicing." My very first person, I was all in my head. And I was so worried and so nervous and so like, can I actually do this? Right. And so she comes on and she had like back pain as well. A lot of people have back pain. And I went in my head. I got so nervous and I started thinking, okay, what am I supposed to do? Wait, what did that person do? What did that person teach me? What did I read in the book? What did so my mind started going into like everybody else except for me, right? What can I do? I started going to like, what did they say to do? How did they do it? What did that book say, right? Like all the things, the wisdom that I was learning, and I was just going back out like, what did the teachers tell me to do? Thinking. And it was a terrible session. It completely flopped. She felt nothing. She was like, I don't even know why I'm here. I mean, not like that, man. She was very nice, but but
Yeah.
it was like that. It was terrifying. And I was like, oh, what did just happen? And that was scary enough, terrifying to stop anyone and be like, okay, yeah, I can't do this. I don't know what my mentor is telling me. I don't know what the girl's saying. I can't do this because, like, I mean, evidence, right? She felt nothing. But my calendar was already filled. I had 28 other people on my calendar the next day and the next day and the next day. And I was like, how do I cancel them all? Because I'm terrible at this. How, right? So I couldn't do that. And so I had to show up for myself the next day. So the next day, I was like, okay. And then this is when I gave it to my guides. So I work with the beings of light, which is I feel, I see through here, not with my regular human eyes, these beams of violet light standing like behind me. Like these are the beings of light for me. And I gave it to them. So after I did my whole prayer of like, for the highest intention of everyone, only allowing the highest frequencies to come in, I said to my guides, and if I mess up, you take over. I was like, if I mess up again, you take over and you work through me because I want this person to have a good experience. So that was the heart, right? Now I'm no longer thinking, am I doing this? Now I'm feeling I want that person to have some relief, right?
Mhm.
And that doing that and giving it to that and allowing myself to just go with the flow of the trusting, then that person had a great experience. She gave me the feedback, and then I was like, oh wow, like this is actually happening. So I wanted to share that because we go through ups and downs, and the whole judging ourselves and questioning ourselves always comes up because of the conditioning, right? As a child, you don't know anything. Your parents tell you, and then the teacher tells you, and then your boss tells you, and there's always someone outside of you telling you if you're good enough, right? Like I remember
Yeah.
going, I worked for a flower shop at one point, and I was getting paid by the hour, right? So like a long time ago, it's like I think I was making, I don't know, like let's say $1 an hour. Probably not. But anyway, just say that. And I was up for my review, a year review. And they're like, according to your performance, you can get 25 cents or 50 cents or 75 cents or a dollar grace. And I was like, okay. So I go in there and I had the manager and the assistant manager, and they tell me amazing things about me, raging, right? Like everything's great, you're always on time, all the things. And I was like, great, right? Like I have that dollar in the bank. And then they go, we're gonna give you 75 cents. And I was like, what? Like what you're saying about me doesn't match what you're giving me, right? Like I understood how the rules worked. And I asked them, I'm like, well, what was I supposed to do in order to get that? And then to make a long story short, they had no answer. And they had no answer because this is a chain flower shop, right? It wasn't like a shop like that. And they had to follow what they were being given. So they were like saying, you cannot do that. You can only give up to this much. And they had to follow those rules. It had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with
Mhm.
them or my performance. Um, but that's all they could do because they were also following somebody else's rules, right? And that right there completely changed my thinking of like, oh, it's not that I'm not good enough to get the top. It's that this is a game. This is a thing that people are playing. And that's what it is. And from that point on, I started, I don't know why I went into this way, into this like whole tangent. But from that point on, I started feeling like things aren't what they're telling me they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Well, tell us more about the Council of Nine. I think people, and I know I'm like, how did they show up and how did you, like, what do you know about them? Where are they from? Are they connected to the angelic realm? Like, what
I'm
can you share?
so happy that you asked me about the counselor. I have not connected to the counselor in a while. The Council of Nine came to me just like that, like, oh, you're now connected to the Council of Nine. Never heard of the council, never heard of that term. I just said it, right? This is from the Council of Nine. And I started giving the message. And and then I just went with it. And also, this is part of who I am, that my trust is just a trust that I don't need to know how it works. I don't need to know where it comes from. I'm skeptical, right? I mean, this is why it took me forever to actually believe in what I could do. But it's like, oh wow, like that's who it is, okay, and that's the message. Fabulous. Wow. I don't need to know the feeling, the answers, which a lot of other people do. I feel that my not needing to know and just trusting is what opens me up to receiving more from different places. So I just put it out there and I felt that they were just as good, just to put it into human words, as the beings of light, as the angels, right? I see the angels as angels, like bright light beings with wings flying, doing things, and also being able to touch other humans because angels have been written about and drawn all around, so they're more accepted than saying the beings of light or the council of nine or ETs or whatever else, right? It's like more accepted as a good thing. So I feel that they get closer to us, or we allow them to get closer because we believe in them already. We have some type of reference. Council of Nine, I have no idea. I'm going to tell you the story because I put it out there and whatever. My son was at the time going to Catholic school. And the person who was in charge didn't mind what I was doing. Like I was like, this is what I do. I've never brought it into the school, right? But then they changed heads. And then the new people came and then they went and they saw what I was doing and they were like, oh, that has to be evil, right? I mean, it's Catholic Church, obviously.
Mhm.
So they called me in if I could go into, to meet with them. And I was like, sure. And I had no idea what it was about. I just went. And when I got there, there were like three people in this office, right? And I'm like, what's going on, right? And they were like, oh, we've been going through your website and we read everything. And who's this Council of Nine? Isn't that like from the devil? And I was like, what?
Oh my word.
So I'm making the story short, but it was like an hour thing. And I felt in that moment, I'm like, oh, this is a modern day witch hunt. That's what it felt like,
Mm.
right? Like, wow. But I had gone in there with so much love in my heart and so much knowing, like, this is who I am, this is what I do, that had that happened maybe a year prior, I would have been in tears, crying, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I'm so evil. Out. But at this place, I only had love and light to talk about. So anything they said, I would just answer like I would answer anyone asking me here, right? With love, with light, like, and I could see that they were getting frustrated and upset because it's like they weren't getting through me, because they weren't, because they
Mhm.
had one belief and I had another, right? And anyway, they brought the Council of Nine there in that moment and they put this negative connotation to it. Then I came home, I started looking it up, right? Like, well, who are these Council of Nine? Right? Like you asked me, who is it? And you can find different texts, right? So you have the church who does talk about it being as not a good thing. And then you have all the holistic people talking about it as like higher beings of love and light and kind of like what it feels like to me that it is now is kind of like higher beings, like ETs, who are like out there in space, like kind of like I don't know, like a council of beings from different species, from different timelines, somewhere out there who are working together to maintain the flow and the harmony of the universe. That's what it feels like to me that they are. But I brought this story and I share this story because even me, with all the work that I've done, with me being able to talk to them in love and light, it still left this residue of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't connect with the
Oh.
Council of Nine. And and I feel like, do I want to? Well, I don't really need to. I have other beings that I connect with, and it's kind of like there. So I'm glad that you brought it up because it feels like it's something that I needed to share and to talk about because that witch hunt, that judgment of like you're doing something bad or evil will always come up for anyone who's waking up, anyone who's feeling these things with the people around, right? Something is going to come because they are not the ones receiving the message. They are not the ones feeling the energy. And it's something so abstract that like all they have is the text and the conditioning that they have been given. And so the first thing that always arises is fear, right? And so
Yeah.
that's the connection of like of the pushing back of like trying to make it the other person be crazy or whatever, right? It comes from a place of fear. But those who are connecting, those who are receiving the message, are the ones who are feeling and remembering that they are one, like one with God, one with the divine. And once you have that, it's like you just remember, and then you have that love and compassion for others who aren't, because you realize that you were there too. You were there before,
Yeah.
you know?
See, I love this because I feel like it's like trying to describe your dream to somebody else, where it's like you can do the best that you can, but you're never it our dreams are so abstract. They're so, it's like 1 minute, like last night I was a bus driver and I had been already driving this bus, and then suddenly I was like, wait, how do I know where to go? And then I noticed that I've been following this GPS that tells me when to stop and what the path is and all of this. It'd been there the whole time, and it was like that had not been part of the dream so far. But once I wondered how I was supposed to know when to stop, then it was like, well, you follow this thing. And it was like, okay, I guess I've been doing this the whole time, even though it hasn't been part of my dream. But like trying to convey the weirdness of a dream, you could spend an hour trying to get all the details right because anything could happen and it's limitless. You can only take somebody so far into your
Hmm.
dream. You can only take it so far. And so it's so similar with what you're talking about, whether we're talking about beliefs, whether we're talking about psychic experiences or messages or past life memories or medium messages from the other side, where it's like we can only convey, you're connecting through these subtle realms, and you're getting this information in very subtle ways beyond the five senses. And so to be able to convey that with the five senses, like when we're engaging in this physical world, we have to use the five senses. That's
Hmm.
how we communicate. We've got to use our words. We've got to use our, if you, I know you do paint or you do your mandalas, like, um, but we've got sight, we've got sound, we've got touch, taste, and smell, but that's kind of it. And if you can't like, and this is beyond that. So then trying to like box it into the five senses, especially to somebody who doesn't want to meet you halfway and who is like ultra suspicious of things and very rigid in terms of like, okay, well, everything I've ever been told says that that's evil, or whatever, that makes it very difficult. So I think, what I love, I love a lot of things about what you're saying. But one of the things is just that, people are going to bump up against this. You're going to bump up against it, whether it's your family, whether it's the school, whether it's whatever. And it's so important that we keep trusting ourselves and that we keep trusting our path. And if you're being intentional about connecting with the highest beings and doing things out of benevolence and for the highest good, that is your protection. That is how you can stand firm in what you're doing, even when you come up against like, okay, not only am I not being supported by this, but they like think it's the opposite of what I'm intending to do. It's not easy territory to get into. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I always like sharing both sides because
Mm-hmm.
people, whenever they see someone speaking or connecting, we tend to put people up there, like, oh, they're better, right? I did that, right? They're better than me. They can do it, I can't, right? But giving this information and sharing that, hey, I went through that as well, makes me more human, makes me more like, hey, I'm just like you. I am just
Yeah.
like you. I'm just allowing and connecting and working on this. So it gives you permission to open up and trust and believe in whatever it is that you're going through.
Yeah, I love that. That's so beautiful. Well, Valeria, this has just been amazing. I've loved hearing your story and all of the inspiration. Tell people how they can find out more about you and work with you.
Well, I have a podcast. It's called Healing Through You on YouTube and also on Apple and Spotify. And my website is Healing Through You as well. So, and I have a Facebook group, a private Facebook group. So if you feel, I have a regular Facebook group, but I have a private one. And if you feel that you want to talk to someone or you like want to know more or share some of experience in a place that is more private, that's what the Facebook group is for, because people can go there and share and be more like, okay, this is what I'm into without other people seeing you. So that's why I created that. And I created it for myself, obviously, when I first started, because I was like, I don't want anyone else to know what I'm doing, right? Because it's so
Well,
scary.
and then what kind of services? Because we've talked about a lot of different modalities that you have. So what kind of ways do you work with people?
Thank you for asking that. I work with people one on one mostly, and I do have some groups. And what I do is I help people reconnect with themselves and remember who they are. So basically, like I can do one on one sessions and give you like a reading or a healing session or anything like that as well. But my passion is in empowering you, empowering other people to remember who they are so that they can come into their own awareness of like, oh, this is what I can do, and then they don't need me, right? Because my belief is like the more people that wake up, the more people that are aware of like, oh, this is real for me as well, then they can go ahead and become the light within their community, within their circle of people that I will never reach. And that's the way that we keep on passing that torch. That's how I feel. So that's my main thing to that I love to do is helping people remember who they are and remember their own spiritual gifts.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Valeria, for being here. I've really loved connecting with you today. Thanks for coming on Soul Elevation.